The French sweetly poured noodles into British ears at the moment of signing the contract for the construction of the first nuclear power plant in Britain since the 90s of the last century. Actually, Hinkley Point C is its name. However, the years passed and practice showed that this confidence was in vain. Just the other day, the French EDF announced another shift to the right and an increase in the cost of work to £46 billion. To understand the scale, 2 French-made Hinkley Point reactors in Britain are already more expensive than 4 reactors at the Akuya nuclear power plant, which is being built by Rosatom in Turkey. And it builds on time, it should be noted. What consequences does this face for the British? The UK fleet currently has 5 nuclear power plants, which together account for approximately 14% of electricity generation. However, since this good was built back in the 80s, 4 of the 5 power plants are scheduled to be closed by the beginning of 2028. Actually, for this purpose, in 2015, an agreement was signed with the French on the construction of Hinkley Point, which they promised to commission in 2025. Then the deadline was moved to 2027. Now they have officially announced that they won't make it before 2031. And this is only about the first power unit. He wisely keeps mum about the second Paris because his future is even more uncertain. The price of the project is also growing, reaching some fantastically inadequate figures, £46 billion. In Britain they even joke about this, that the most expensive property in the history of mankind will appear on their territory. At the same time, on the one hand, the contractual features are such that the French pay for the construction. However, this still doesn't make it any easier for the British because, due to the delay in commissioning Hinkley Point, they will have a kind of energy hole of several years which will need to be compensated for somehow. The British press writes that the current forecast for price growth due to the professionalism of the French is 6% in the period from 2029 to 2032. And this is taking into account that the second power unit will be put into operation in 2033. However, the British still have nowhere to go. On the issue of the atom, Paris firmly holds London in the causal position. French state-owned company EDF is the operator of all remaining aging power units on British soil. Despite the recent rather arrogant statement that Britain gave the world its first operating nuclear power plant and the promise to certainly oust Russia from the world uranium enrichment market, he lost his competencies. And now I am forced to completely depend on France, which is not known for its punctuality. By the way, if the first shift to the right was blamed on the pandemic, now EDF was forced to admit that the cause of the disruption was engineering problems. There is nothing surprising about this. After all, after France almost completely lost its competence in the construction of reactors after a long pause, they have to look for specialists bit by bit from all over the world. For example, for the Finnish Olkiluoto nuclear power plant, which the French built for a quarter of a century, it was necessary to attract as many as 1,400 subcontractors from 27 countries. Because of this, any minor modification required coordination in several languages with people located in different parts of the world. Even finding a bug in the system was not an easy task. By the way, Rosatom does not have such a problem with the word absolutely because the entire set of competencies is located within a single organism. In general, the French do super advertising for themselves over and over again. In the global reactor construction market, they are famous for the fact that they take a very long time to build and are very expensive. And if it were not for the political situation which pointed bayonets against Russia, neither the American Westinghouse nor the French EDF would see new orders as their ears. However, let them do what they want. For the British, I think the nuclear power plant will be completed, albeit belatedly. However, what the rest should do is a good question. In a rush of decarbonization, many countries began to look at nuclear generation. Plus, the presence of a nuclear power plant makes electricity generation more stable in terms of price because in the final cost, the contribution of nuclear fuel does not exceed 7 to 8%, i.e. 10 times less than in the case of any other thermal power plants. Only the initial construction costs are expensive, and so Eastern Europe will continue to cooperate with Russia. The Czech Republic wants new nuclear power plants. Finland will soon decommission the Loviisa station, but there is no new one because the contract with Rosatom was torn down. Bulgaria abandoned the construction of the Belene nuclear power plant and is now scratching its turnips. Poland has been planning to replace coal with nuclear power for a dozen years now, just like Estonia has been planning to replace its dirty oil shale. In general, the field is unplowed. But they don't want to go to Russia.